So for the Monster Triple Disc Clutch for the 6th generation Camaro, some real quick numbers. You're going to increase the friction disc surface area by 300%. You're going to increase the clamp load by 230%. You're going to drop weight at 16%, and you're going to do it all for a 27% increase over factory. You might want to stick around. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for clicking. Thanks for hanging out. Ryan and I have the triple disc install done. It's finished and I've been driving on it for probably 3 weeks now, maybe a month. Sorry it took so long to get this video out, but the reality is stuff keeps changing on it and you keep discovering new nuances about it. And we'll get to those here in a little bit. But first I wanted to mention that Ryan and I actually attended what they call a warehouse takeover. So I wanted to give you a few shots of that.
Oh shit, did he break? Okay.
Yeah, good.
Oh, fuck.
Start it back up.
This thing is stupid bad. No place. I thought they were gonna go for it. fucking good.
And you were right up in there.
Oh, man.
I just stepped back.
Dude, yeah.
How close were you at?
I don't know, maybe fucking 8-10 inches. Oh, dude. Less than a foot. Oh, shit. Is that cool? Whoa. How is she cooling? I think she's cooling. Is it oil? Yeah, it's oil. Oil and cooling. Oil and cooling. Arrow got bit. Wow. Yeah. It's cooling. It's cooling.
But let's get into the monster triple disc install. If you catch me looking down or whatever, I'm not being rude. It's just I've got some notes, and it's been a while, and I need to just kind of make sure I don't miss anything for you guys. So here's the deal. This is a big project, and I live in an apartment, and I have a single stall garage. So as you know, when you start taking parts off of this car like you're going to, because this is a big job and this is a lot more than I thought would be coming off of this car, that space fills up really quick. So it's no big deal. The truth about a house is I don't want one. So I kind of had to make do with what I have. I had quite a few people offer to let me do this job at their place with a 3-car garage, 4-car garage, but I kind of wanted to prove a point that you can do this no matter where. I ended up buying some 12-inch race ramp wheel cribs, and those things are absolutely worth their weight in gold. They are made out of a foam. They are 7 pounds, I think each of them are, and they will withhold 1,500 pounds. So 1,500 pounds each corner, so 6,000 total pounds capacity. And that's just what they're rated at. So, you know, even Ryan's Mercedes weighs just a tick over 5,000 pounds. You could, in theory, put that SUV on those foam blocks and be just fine. I know that people are making these out of 2x4s, and they are holding up as far as, you know, cars go. But I'm sure there's some information online, and I'll be honest with you, I was kind of hesitant to go that route because simply I just need data. I'm not gonna drop a big investment like OJ is to me on you know trying to save $100 as far as these wheel cribs go. So I went ahead and I spent the money. I think I got a deal on them for about $175. So, but you're absolutely going to need something like that of the nature. What it's going to do is it's going to support the car by the wheels. If you want to get 2 sets, you can put a front and rear, and it's going to give you total access to underneath. And I think that anybody with any exotics or whatever, this is definitely what you need 100%, because it gives you absolutely total access underneath the car. The 12-inch wheel crib is enough to get the transmission out. By the time we got the transmission out and on the ground, pretty much just got it to the edge of the tunnel and then picked up on the tail housing and pulled the transmission out. So it was perfect. It was just high enough not to keep your arms up way high so you get exhausted or fatigued, but it's definitely high enough to get clearance so you can crawl underneath the car and pull the transmission out and get the job done that way. The diagnosis, and this is where I had a question from a Per1, which was a subscriber, and I will put it up here, but he was kind of wondering what the symptoms are of the a clutch going bad or whatever, and here's going to be my interpretation or my diagnosis of how I kind of get a feel for clutches over the years that and the experience that I've had with manual transmission cars.
So what I wanted to show you guys was pretty much, if you feel like you're having a bad clutch, your clutch might be going bad. I'm not going to do it because I'm just not out of the breaking point in this monster clutch yet. I should have recorded this video when I had the OE clutch in. I apologize, but after Ryan and I got done shooting that no lift shift video, I just wanted to get it to work. So what you're going to want to do is, if you feel like the clutch might be slipping or if it's in question, a good way to diagnose that or tell if that's the case is you want to take pretty much go in like the first gear So I like first gear simply because it's not going to be moving that fast. You can do first or second and take it up to the RPM range. You know, pretty much if you're going to shift between, you know, 2,000 and 3,000, take it up to speed and then skip a gear, go into third, and then let it out and floor it. Now what that's gonna do is, whoa, somebody's been down here doing donuts before me. What that's gonna do is that is going to put a lot of stress on that drivetrain without, you know, creating a lot of unnecessary, well, it's going to be unnecessary load, but it's going to put it in a good usable range to put stress on it, so that way you can tell if that friction disc in there is slipping or not. So you can also do this, go from second to fourth, and if you really want to make sure and you're hyper paranoid about it slipping, you might want to check. You can find like a hill and, you know, find like a fine gradation, not like a massive steep hill, but just like a good gradation of a road, you know, heading up. And you can try that same technique as far as going about 70-80% upway to about the shift point, and then skip a gear and then go over, and you can check that way. This works exceptionally well with like 4 cylinders, with a V8, you know, maybe take it down to, you know, 60, 70, 80%, somewhere in that range. But that's a good way to check and see if your clutch disc is slipping. Also, you'll be able to feel once the clutch is disengaged and the car is moving, you'll be able to lightly, don't put any pressure, but just enough, lightly put your foot on the clutch pedal while the car is moving, and you'll be able to see if it's pulsating feedback, and that's telling you if there's any damage to that friction disc, or if there is a massive amount of run out in that flywheel, you know. And you're going to get direct feedback simply because it's you know, it's hydraulic. The hydraulic fluid's going to be pushing back on the clutch pedal, and like I said before, you know, liquids do not compress like gases do, so therefore you're going to get direct feedback as far as what is going on with that clutch pedal. So also, another way to tell is if it is like going out of gear, in gear, or your shifts are tough. Got a piece of crap there, I don't know what that is. If your shifts are tough, or if it's being stuck in gear, or if it's grinding going into gear, it's a good indicator that a clutch might be bad. Obviously, if it's slipping and you're pressing on the gas and the engine speed is increasing while the speed of the car is not, or if the car is, you know, the vehicle speed is slowly increasing but the engine speed is massively increasing, that's a good sign of might be a bad clutch too. So seriously, I appreciate you asking. I hope this answers it. So if there's any other questions, drop them below. But other than that, I just want to say thank you for subscribing, thank you for watching, and I hope this helped you out.
Okay, the transmission removal. As I said before, you're going to need the wheel cribs. There is a aluminum cover that actually will cover up the cradle, and you're going to need full access underneath the car to take all the plastics down. I'm going to leave a link to a video where ACT did a install on a twin disc clutch, pretty much the same thing. So I followed it pretty much up to about the 10.5 minute mark. I mean, that's going to be the nuts and bolts. That's going to be the, you know, the whole meat that you're going to need to know as far as getting the thing out. We followed that video right up to the T and up until the point of the transmission actually coming out. Now, GM, and I don't know why they did this, but the bell housing bolts, there's 4 of them. There's 8 total, but there's 4 of them that have a stud on them. And that stud does nothing but hold a plastic grommet, so the wiring harness goes perfectly around the bell housing. the fit is so tight, the wiring harness has no choice but to fit that anyways. So once I got those bolts out, I cut those studs off. So if you go that route, you're only gonna have to mess with it one time. I don't see a need for those studs at all. I took those studs off. When it comes time to drop the transmission itself, actually, now this is what Ryan and I did. This is not what I'm gonna recommend for you in case anything goes wrong, but here's what the video says to do. The front cradle bolts do 1 turn, and then on the middle cradle bolts do 5 turns, and then take the back 2 out. We actually ended up taking out the front ones entirely and then going back in 10 turns. That still wasn't enough to gain access, because you could get it to separate, and you'd get probably, you know, a couple inches of separation between the transmission and the, you know, the engine block. So what we ended up doing was we ended up taking another block and pushing up on the harmonic balancer, and that stretched those motor mounts. Now when you're doing this, make sure before you have this done, you need to take the upper radiator mounts loose and make sure that you have the steering shaft, the actual input shaft going down to the rack. You need to disconnect that, because the header is going to want to, or you know, the exhaust manifold is going to want to actually tilt back, and that the header probably moved back, I would say, a good full inch. So I would say you're either going to break that shaft, or yeah, there's no way that you're going to get around that. So the steering shaft is real easy. I didn't have any problems with it. There's one nut down by the knuckle where you'll see like a clamp. I can't remember the style of clamp it has, but you'll see one where it has a bolt going through. Just pull that bolt out. I took a pry bar, loosened up the grip on it, and then just pushed up, and the steering shaft will, you know, it'll just pop loose. No big deal at all. Having done that, like I said, just take you know, another block of wood with a jack, push up on the pry bar, and what that's going to do is that's going to tilt the engine and transmission down. That way you're able to separate the two and have just enough clearance to get that, make that clearance on the bell housing from the trans tunnel. Because
all right. Okay, so we finally got it out. Finally, this is day 2. So I got Ryan behind on the camera here. What, buddy, old pal, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think that this is?
I would say this is a 15.
This is by far the worst transmission I have taken out of a longitudinal position V8. You wouldn't think that this would be this bad, but this is by far the worst. This is day 2 of just removing. I'm going to leave a link to a video below. It was really helpful, I think, don't you?
I think it was helpful, but I think they left out a lot of tips and tricks that would have helped out the average user.
Oh, 100%.
Like Andrew and I, because
100%.
they left out, like, we basically had to drop the whole cradle assembly, take all the bolts out just to actually get the transmission dropped down, which they neglected to mention.
Yeah.
And we had to take the intermediate steering shaft out to get clearance with the exhaust manifold,
as well as take the radiator loose
and take the top radiator brackets loose, because it was stressing that. So there are things that would have helped out, because we followed it step by step by the book, and
burned up a lot of time.
It burned up a lot of time, and it stressed us to unlimited amounts, which we did not need. You know.
Yes.
So what we found out, and I hope you guys this can help you guys.
Right.
Without having headaches like we encountered.
Oh my God, 100%. So basically, we got everything out. This thing right here, it's got so many switches and just so many, everything that plugs into. It's turned into the Indy 500 all of a sudden. But it's as far as seeing for the active rev match and everything, I am lost on. So I'm gonna do like a slow-mo shot of kind of giving you like shots of the external of the transmission.
take the 2 upper radiator supports loose, and
Right, there's one.
yep.
There's one, because it will pull it back, and you would be prone to breaking these.
Yeah.
And we also had a lot of stress on our upper radiator hose too.
Yeah. So, other than that, yeah, we're gonna put it back together, get back on the road, and hopefully this thing's trouble-free. So we'll do I don't know, maybe we'll do a review video of going back together. What do you think? Once we get everything back on the road. So let's get going. This is really packaged to where the motor and transmission is up high. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's the nature of it. And you'll see once you get in there what I'm talking about. Okay, once you have the transmission and down on the ground and it's separated from, the engine, what you're going to do is you're going to take the pressure plate off, you're going to take the friction disc out, and then you're going to take the flywheel off. Now you want to take those 8 bolts out, and this is kind of the tricky part where you're going to, what I had happen to me was the very bottom bolt that's at the, it's going to be the 6 o'clock position. That bolt, as soon as you take it out, it started leaking oil. And that's where I was, we were looking at each other like, what is going on? And like I said, with that dual mass flywheel, it's made to absorb vibrations. What they actually have on the bolts, on top of, simply having a dual mass flywheel, is they have these rubber grommets on the bolts going through the flywheel itself. And I don't know if these act like a gasket or as like a vibration isolator, but that's that's where it was leaking from. It was not the rear main seal. We dried everything off. I plugged it up, sprayed everything off, and sure enough, it was straight out of that crankshaft itself. So if you see that, don't worry. The bolts you get from Monster actually have, I don't know if it's like a putty or if it's almost like Loctite types, but that will end up sealing that hole back up, and it kind of acts like Teflon tape or whatever. So don't worry, that's normal if you find that once you get the flywheel off. If you had that happen to you when you took the flywheel off, comment below, because I was pretty freaked out when I saw that. I'm like, what the fuck? Getting to the Monster clutch itself. Once you have the factory stuff disassembled, fixed the way you want it, and off to the side, here's what I've kind of came up with the idea of. I never seen anybody online, and I did a Google search. I couldn't find any specs as far as what the flywheel weighed. As far as any aftermarket parts go, stuff's gonna be different, and that's just the way it is. So I wanted to make sure that I was kind of documenting for me and you guys that what was going back in the car, and kind of gonna see, it kind of helps to know if stuff changes like it did, why, where your differences are, and it kind of helps tell the story of why things are changing and why they are the way they are. So here, I'm going to show you exactly what the OE flywheel weighs and what the whole assembly weighs versus the Monster.
This is a public health alert. You need to watch out for them jack handles. They'll get you every time.
Ready?
Yep.
All right. Factory OESS flywheel, 37.2 pounds. Pressure plate, friction disc, 66. So let's do that again. I'll pull it up here, let it reset. Let it reset. Well, 66, there you go, 66 pounds.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Monster disc, or I'm sorry, flywheel. Good. It's morning. We'll let the scale reset.
It is 20.6. So we'll go 20.6. I've got it all apart because I'm about ready to put it in, but I thought this would be a last minute. So what was the OE? So we have all triple disc, all pressure plates, everything. 57 pounds. What was the OE?
It's all about 200 pounds.
So yeah, either way. So the rotating assembly is going to be losing what? It's going to be losing 10, well, right around 10 pounds. I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm hypersensitive about dealing with this clutch and handling it. I just want to get it in and I just want to get it installed. So I just thought it'd be a good fact. I haven't seen anybody weigh it online. So in case you're wondering, I'm wondering how, do you think it'll rev quicker? I think it will.
More rev quicker, more throttle response.
I'm hoping. Yeah. So there you go.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it? This, like I said before, this is like automotive jewelry. I swear, this clutch assembly, especially the flywheel itself, the way it's just machined and everything, it almost is a shame that it's covered up. You know, it's so deep inside with the transmission, and it's just, you wish you could put it on display. It's absolutely worth every freaking penny. Getting the clutch assembly itself, because you would think that, you know, gaining 2 additional discs plus that floater plate, you're going to be like, well, how's it going to fit in there, right? So here's the deal. They actually took the whole stack of friction discs, the floater plate, and the pressure plate, and they actually moved it closer to the engine block itself. And in the packaging, they give you some recessed OE, shorten, and then rethread the OE flywheel bolts. So they took the whole stack and moved it closer to the block, but you'll see here, they actually will give you an aluminum spacer. And this is the part where you're going to need to measure, and it is going to be from, everything is going to be off of that very point where the bell housing and the engine block meet. So you're going to want to measure how thick the stack is. When I say stack, I'm talking about the pressure plate, the flywheel, the discs, all that. So you're going to want to measure the back of the stack to the engine block, and then you're going to want to measure the face of the bearing that sits on the face of the slave cylinder to the edge of the bell housing. And that's going to be your total measurement as far as making sure that that spacer underneath the slave cylinder is going to, you know, have enough room to fully engage the clutch, that whole freaking stack. And it's important. Measure, remeasure, measure again. I think I measured like 3 times. I came up within like 2-3 thousandths my previous numbers, so I knew I was right on. This is a huge job, and you want to make sure that it's right. Now you want to make sure you're within tolerance of 65 thousandths of an inch to 200 thousandths of an inch. I think I measured with the spacer. My spacer that I received was like 454 thousandths, which pushed the slave cylinder up almost half an inch, and it put me at about 112 thousandths of an inch was my play between the stack and the slave cylinder. As far as that spacer goes, and this is where a lot of guys that are driving these cars and don't like the clutch feel, how it's at the very top, or if it feels kind of spongy, this fixes it, because this spacer puts it dead smack in the middle. And as a matter of fact, they say that if you take out the helper spring, they call it a helper spring on the clutch. I didn't do that because after driving the car, I like the way it felt. I think it's perfect. so I didn't mess with it at all. But they say it gives it more of a linear feel. As a matter of fact, it is, I think it's a perfect feel with and without active rev matching on. So you'll notice it's a little bit softer with active rev matching. Without, you'll notice that bite point and you know, that release window. So if you don't like the OE factory setting as far as where the clutch engages and releases, you need to get this clutch. After relearning the footwork, and which I still am, you're going to find out that it sets it exactly midway. So you're gonna feel, you know, the bite point and then that release window all the way up to the top of the pedal. I love the way that this clutch feels. Now with the, you know, the 9 pounds savings, and that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it is. I hate to put it as unsprung weight, but it is when you really think about it. And unsprung weight kind of feels amplified or multiplied as far as the effect it has on everything, you know, whatever's in rotation. So it's kind of you think that it would climb the RPMs faster. In my mind, it kind of feels like a little bit like it does, but really ultimately what you're going to need is you're going to need a lighter rotating assembly, and then you'll really feel it. You'll really hear it. You'll really feel it. So it does climb the active rev match. It does. It's a lot faster. There are some pros and cons as far as going from a dual mass flywheel with all that vibration absorption and you know, just being able to have that forgiveness, especially with those isolators on the flywheel bolts, to going to a single piece, you know, a one-piece flywheel with no isolators in it whatsoever. And it almost reminds me of what like a broken motor mount feels, how everything's so direct and clunky. You know, you would think that wouldn't be the best on the drivetrain, but time will tell. That motor is so freaking, it's just so violent. Anybody that knows what I'm talking, you know, that owns this motor, lives with it, has drove it, you know what I'm talking about. But it's the point where you're letting off the gas, you can feel that clunk, you know what I mean? So if you know, if you're not very smooth with the gas, I'd recommend just use the cruise control. It'll be just fine. The computer's a lot softer and a lot smoother and a lot more fluent than you can be with the foot. So no big deal. It's all just part of the territory. You can't win them all. Here's the cool part. Everything which you do with this clutch, it totally drives stock. It totally feels stock as far as, you know, the stiffness and the pedal feel and everything. The engagement point is different, but everything that you do is under warranty as long as you do not drift with this clutch, which they do have clutches for if you want to drift. As long as you're not drifting, I can race, I can do whatever I want, and this clutch is covered in warranty. You just call them, tell them what you did, you know, whatever, send it in, they'll send you a new one, done. And it states right on their website. I'll put a picture up here. It's just part of the deal. That's what you're buying a triple disc clutch for, is you need more holding power. Going to changes as far as what's changed, what's different, what's new. I will say at idle, when you're in neutral here, and I'll give you a clip here. That's nothing more than just that stack in there with the, you know, transmission in neutral, just, you know, kind of working its way back and forth, just flopping around. As soon as you engage, you know, first gear, or you put any pressure on the clutch, noise goes away, everything resumes as normal. But it is normal. Don't, you know, when you get your clutch together and you go for a drive, don't think that, you know, don't panic or anything thinking that, you know, something's wrong. It's not. The brake fluid in the clutch master cylinder are shared off of that single one cylinder, so they both feed off of that one reservoir. So you're gonna want to make sure that you need to make sure the thing is topped off and full, because what I think that actually happened when my pedal was working its way to the top and starting to get a little spongy feeling, I think a little bit of air might have gotten in there. I'm not for sure, but it is what it is. It's already done now. The break-in period is 500 miles. It's pretty standard with any clutch, but it's not just 500 miles and then if you hit the freeway, you know, wait for 500. No, you need about 500 in town, because you're going to need that heat cycle. You're going to need those friction discs to actually engage and, you know, disengage and actually heat up and cool down, and actually bed themselves like brake pads into the flywheel to, you know, get that position down to get both of them wore in. I kind of gave mine about 1,000 miles or 1,200 miles. I actually went out and did a 0 to 60 pull. I used the timer on the car, and you'll be able to see here.
Okay, let's get turned around here. I'm not gonna need a very long stretch of road, just need a little bit of peace and quiet. So 1SS Camaro, let's see, we're gonna go to competitive sport mode. And then we're gonna toggle down to race. Okay, the best is 5.1. So it'll hold it at 3. There it is.
So yeah, I picked up 0.4 of a second. Now that may not sound like a lot, but it is. And believe it or not, those tires are bald. They're I mean, like literally, like at some points there's, you know, 1/32, maybe none. So, but don't worry, I've got a plan. I'm working on something as far as getting that going. Don't think that, you know, why didn't you replace the tires? So be patient. I'm working on something, and something for the wheels. So also what I've noticed is when I fuel my car up, and I don't know if this is tricking the range meter or whatever, but I filled my car up the other day, and other 1LE owners, manual 1LE 6th Gen Camaro owners, and I'm not talking about Camaros at regular SS's or ZL1s or whatever, because SS's actually have the DOD activated, and that will actually increase the mileage and skew the results. But I'm saying SS1LE because we have DOD, but it's not activated, so it'll never come on. Every time I go to fuel my car up, it ranges anywhere from like 340 to maybe 350, 355. That's when the range meter will peg out at. And all of a sudden, it's going up to like 390. I think the highest I've got it up to is like 392. So I don't know if that extra weight is relieving on the rotating assembly or whatever, but as far as the range goes, 390 miles, 392 miles, that's nuts. I'm gonna see if I can get it up to 400. I have never seen it that high. I don't know how it's messing with it, but yeah. All in all, it didn't cost me any engine oil. I think the rear diff may have lost like, you know, maybe half a pint, and I think I lost like 3/4 of a quart doing the you know, what was in the cooler lines of the transmission once they're separated. But other than that, yeah, I highly recommend this clutch. You almost tripled the power, holding power out of this clutch for 1/4 of the cost. So I honestly thought that was a bargain. That's just, it was cheap in my opinion. So, and as far as, you know, being able to abuse this thing and it have a warranty and them standing behind their products, This is a win, man. This clutch, I can't recommend it enough. It feels awesome in the car now. It takes the abuse. The active rev matching jumps around a little bit faster. The no lift shift is pretty much seamless, and I can no lift shift till, you know, till whenever I want to now, because this clutch will be able to take absolutely a beating. So if you have any questions, guys, or if I can help you out, leave a comment below. Also, I've been adding some shorts in. Let me know what you think of those. I can add them in, or I just kind of want to stay relative as far as being able to, you know, give you guys some kind of content throughout the week. As far as me filming, it's very hard for me to, you know, film Monday through Friday. So tell me what you guys think of the shorts. If you guys don't like them, I'll stop doing them. If you want to watch them, I'll keep them going. So other than that, subscribe. I hope you guys had an awesome day. I hope this really helps somebody out. Give it a thumbs up. Take care. I'll catch you on the next one. See you later, guys.